Welcome to Grey Primer, a channel that's mostly about miniatures. My name is Nick, I'm your host, and on this show I'm going to be tackling my Warhammer pile of shame. Some of it anyway. A very small amount of it. Barely going to scratch the surface. But I do think it is time to make a start. And there's plenty of projects in my head that this stuff can bring into reality. At this year's Salute in London, I was inspired by Kitbash Corner to do really cool stuff, really weird stuff with generic miniatures, if you can call Warhammer generic. And then I was absolutely blown away at the UK Games Expo in Birmingham when I saw Trench Crusade being played and picked up some merch and got to meet the phenomenally talented men and women who are putting that together. It combines exceptional world building and storytelling with the most beautiful and nightmarish art, and I'm also going to assume that there's great craft being demonstrated in the way they're building out the war game and balancing the rules and all that sort of stuff. But I have to be honest, I lean more towards the lore and the art. And it took meeting the people behind it, it took seeing it on the table, it took looking at the merch and the miniatures for me to really get it. And now I'm absolutely hooked. So this video is going to be the first in a series of diorama builds that are all about Trench Crusade. In this one, I want to take on the Éire Rangers. It's the one that's closest to my heart, and considering that I'm sitting in Éire right now, I figured it was the most appropriate. And for me, the Cities of Sigmar has the Éire Rangers written all over it. Just gotta add a few more guns and a lot more grime. Coming up right now. Cities of Sigmar is one of my favorite ranges across all of Warhammer. I just think the facial expressions are so good, the miniature detail is great, they've got great banners and weapons and groovy helmets and all sorts of stuff going on. The miniatures aren't overly ornate, so they're a little easier to paint as well for me. So yeah, this is me going through my bits box. These are some Adeptus Mechanicus guns. I thought they'd work really well. There's a lot of Warhammer guns work well with something like Trench Crusade. You probably don't want to go for bolters and things like that. They're just too big. But things like shotguns and stuff are fine. Maybe not those landmines, but everything else, I think. One of the things I like to do is just try them out against the miniatures before I commit to going too far with the Kitbash. This looks well, the scale looks well, it looks like a big sniper rifle, and I like just how ornate it is as well, this Adeptus Mechanicus rifle. You can see the bodies here, they're just great, and look at that, it just fits. Both of them fit. Sure, it's a little bit long, but I don't mind that so much, I think it's okay. And this is our Brigadier General. This is like the big boss who's visiting this small platoon out in the middle of the woods. And he's got one of those gorgeous rifles on his back as well. But look at the detail on that miniature. And this one as well. I just think these banners just work beautifully. The shotgun actually worked well there too. My bits box is fairly expansive. And sometimes it's just a case of grabbing bits, trying them out, seeing what they look like, but there's certainly no shortage of stuff to try out. So these WarCry Wildercorps hunters are very much in that same vein as the Cities of Sigmar, same sort of facial expressions. I'll probably just steal some of the heads here. And then these Freeguild Command Corps, again, look at these facial expressions. They've got great banners, weapons, armor, and some beautiful decal sheets in these Cities of Sigmar kits as well. One of the most enjoyable parts of a diorama for me is the research phase. And for this one, because it's like that Celtic background, blending with World War I, bit of medieval armor, things like that, just merging all together. I wanted to really swat up on Celtic iconography, traditions within Ireland and, across the other Celtic lands. I found this helmet, which looks very like a Trench Crusade helmet. It's fantastic, 1st century BC England. But for me, the whole point of this phase is just getting a feel for the lore, finding out what I want to make of this, little icons I'm going to put on the banners and things like that. And even the illustrations in books like this are really useful for just getting a feel for that world. And then I found this thing, The Ring Legends of Tolkien by David Day. And this is supposed to be like all of the influences behind the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and stuff. And it goes through all the different mythologies and legends across the world. And it's just beautifully illustrated. I mean, look at this. This is straight out of like Slain the King or something. Or Slania the King. And I dig it. Celtic and Saxon myths. I don't know if any of this actually inspired Tolkien, but there are a lot of parallels, a lot of crossovers. But enough with research, time to get blades into plastic and start to kitbash these miniatures. I will pull miniatures in from wherever. It doesn't matter. It all serves the finished piece. So if I'm cutting arms off core miniatures or cutting legs off this, that, or the other, it doesn't matter to me. And this particular build has blended, like I say, core, there's Age of Sigmar, WarCry, there's Necromunda in there, there's probably a little bit of 40k. And then even Warhammer the Old World gets a look in here with this Watchtower of the Empire. These kits just scream diorama centerpiece to me. There's stuff here from Old World. There's also the Middle-earth strategy battle game or whatever it's called. And I just think they're hard to beat. Solid plastic, finely detailed. They're really easy to kitbash and modify. Even the details in the doors and stuff. It's just fantastic. And I don't think I ended up using there's probably a quarter of this that I didn't use that will just go into the kitbash pile for a future build. You can modify it all. It just works the same way as all Citadel plastics. And yeah, this was a great find and really is the heart of this diorama. But it's too clean. So obviously I have to start tearing bits of this beautiful thing apart. I wanted it to look like, it had seen serious conflict. Maybe not in this battle, maybe not even in this century, but it's been through it. And it has a lot of scars. This super glue activator spray, you've got to get this stuff. This is fantastic. Dremel helps me here, or whatever this generic version of a Dremel is. Helps me to get those cannonball impacts into this stonework. These finer drills, just maybe small arms fire or whatever, but definitely getting there. Definitely looking less than brand new. So this is the Brigadier General. I just thought I'd go through the whole process of what paints I'm using with him because they're in a uniform. It's the Éire Rangers uniform, so one is going to look like the next. The differences will be in things like the weapons they're carrying, the accessories, the pose, whatever. I went with AK Interactive's new Quick Gen range. They released a complete range, including metallics and some military colors. And it's very much their contrast, speed paint entry. They've also released a paint range called Deep Shades in the recent past, and they're almost a contrast, but more like a wash filter kind of vibe to them. Whereas this Quick Gen range they're very much competing with the established contrast type ranges that are out now. And by having a lot of metallics in there too, and some of those military colors, they're upping the game a bit here. Now, metallic contrast, I think, is been around for a long time. I remember Citadel's chainmail paint back in the early 90s, and that was kind of contrast. But anyway, here's one of my favorite colors of all time, AK Interactive's buff. And I also like the blood effect in this guy's ear. This is called Blood Effect. And here's one of those deep shades I was talking about, Reddish Filth. You see it acts much more like a wash than contrast paint. Probably second only to my love of the research phase of doing a diorama is my find the right decals phase. I go through my library of decal sheets, trying to just find the right vibe, the right direction to take for minis. I mean, there's some great Celtic stuff here, and I think that was from, that's from a Wood Elf Blood Bowl decal sheet. I think these decal sheets are made by Green Stuff World, and I'll take bits from this, that, or the other. And it's funny, when I start putting decals on the miniatures, I know that I'm approaching the end of the diorama build, but it also feels like I'm breathing life into these things, that they're starting to get their true character. This was from Warlord Games. This is a great little battlefield bits and pieces set. I love these sandbags. They look very uniform and like nothing, but when mounted, when piled up, they look fantastic. So time to get some color onto the watchtower itself. Now, the thing I had to keep reminding myself was this watchtower's been sitting here in the woods for a lot of years. Not maintained, not freshly painted or washed down. It has just been gradually becoming part of the woods. And you'll see later on sort of the trees encroaching on it and sucking it back in. But I just wanted it to look grimy. Moss Deposits from AK is a brilliant paint. It's an enamel paint, so you can knock it back with the likes of white spirits, mineral spirits, whatever you want to call it. AK have also an odorless thinner that does the same thing. As you brush it on, you can see that it dials it right back down, pushes it into the nooks and crannies. You can use those mineral spirits to thin that paint as well. But brilliant stuff. Dark Steel's another one of their contrast metallics, and it just goes on like lead belcher. Added some little shields there, family crests. I don't even know if you'll see those at the end, because I put all these details in and then it gets so grimy and so covered in greenery that I don't know why sometimes I bother, but I know it's there underneath the greenery or underneath the rust. Speaking of rust, this is Dirty Down, which is a good product, but it can sometimes be gloopy, it can be hard to stir, and yeah, it's given the choice between Dirty Down products and enamels, I'll take enamels. Alright, so this company, I don't know if they're pronounced Noch or Noch, but they make amazing trees that all come in different shapes and sizes, different types of tree species or whatever, but this particular coupling I think worked really well with this diorama. It just gives the feeling that nobody's been staying at this watchtower for some time. It's not really had strategic relevance for some time as well. And all of this stuff here, the mosses, the grime, is going to be demonstrating that it's nature's taken it back. Vallejo's thick mud is my go-to for muddying up my dioramas. When you apply flock directly to it while it's still wet, it adheres really nicely. I always cover it off with some of this Geek Gaming Scenics matte sealant spray. Soak it in that stuff. When it dries, everything is locked down. Brilliant stuff. Actually, one of my favorite hobby products. Okay, this is another of my favorite hobby products. This is AK's Ivy Foliage. It comes out in this like little mat, and you just tease it out. It's weird at first because it feels like it's hair with leaves on it. But once you start adding it to the model, and super glue is probably your best friend here, it just takes on a life of its own. It feels right. It doesn't feel out of place. And I'm a massive fan of this. It just works. Most of this I think is from Gamer Grass. Most of these tufts. Tufts are fantastic. Self-adhesive. I don't know what adhesive they use either, but they seem to stick to whatever mess I've made with enamels and Dirty Down and pigments and stuff. They just magically stick through it all. once I've put the Watchtower onto the actual diorama base, it needs to just blend in. So I push a lot of flock in around the edges, some little shrubs and grasses and things, just to make it feel seamless. Got my little second company, second platoon sign here for the front garden. And then my very useful directions where everything is. A very useful bathroom tree around the corner, but which I think is probably the taller one of these two. Because the wood on the trees is very uniform, I just made this dark wash for it. Just as a reminder that this is for Trench Crusade. Got my little patch there. It's time to start adding the men and women of the Éire Rangers to this little diorama. This guy's got like a relic blade in this box. And then we've got one of the banner bearers of the second 2-2, so that's the second company, second platoon. Awesome looking axe on the back there as well. And he's got a war horn or whatever you would call it. And we've got one of the specialists here with a grenade launcher. Awesome looking shield as well. We got the bugler. He's got that really cool long rifle there on his back. Decent looking sword. And then this wicked looking infantryman with an interesting rifle, great haircut, great shield. Just looks the part. And then she's got another one of those Adeptus Mechanicus rifles, which just feels like it belongs in this thing. And then the Brigadier General himself, looking fancy, with his awesome helmet, and that great sword. Had to come through that door sideways though, because he's a bit of a chunky lad with all of that armor. And then, as the signpost says, up top we've got the snipers. And this is one of the flag bearers up there as well, one of the banner bearers. And beside them, this one here. Like what I love about this is I can't even remember what these were supposed to look like. So for me, that's the mark of a successful kit bash. I have no idea where this came from. The component parts that's looking at it here, it just feels like it connects together. And the most satisfying part of any build is getting that black rim around the edge, of course. A lot more black paint on this one, but it is good to get it done. And that's it. Got the Brigadier General coming out after probably a pretty rough night's sleep to spend some time with the men and women of 2nd Company, 2nd Platoon, Éire Rangers. Got a specialist squad, we got the sniper squad. And they're just heading out into the woods for another day of demon hunting and probably a bit of heretic burning as well. Now, typically my dioramas are inspired by my favorite novels or movies, but in this occasion, this one was entirely inspired by just the great storytelling, the great world building of Trench Crusade. I can't wait to get into the next one. And I really enjoyed taking that first little slice off the top of my Warhammer pile of shame and turning it into something like this that makes me smile every time I look at it. And I hope you enjoyed it too, and if you did, please hit that little like, do the whole thing with subscribing, notifications, tell your friends and family. And until the next time, take care, and bye-bye.